It is now officially the largest fire in California this year, and tonight crews are fighting that fire with more fire. Good evening and thanks for joining us for the News at 11. I'm Dan Shadwell. Karina is off tonight. We begin with an update on the massive Thomas Fire still chewing its way through the dense brush and steep hillsides in Ventura County. It has charred more than 143,000 acres so far and is just 10% contained. Even so, CAL FIRE called it a very successful day on the fire line. We also learned of the death of a woman that was connected to the fire. We'll have more on her in a moment. Of the 401 structures destroyed, 176 were single-family homes. KSBY News reporter Angel Russell joins us now live from Firefighters Base Camp in Ventura with an update on all of it. Angel?
Yeah, Dan, about 2 hours ago, I just got back from the front lines of this fire in the Los Padres National Forest. But first, I want to show you the map of what we're dealing with tonight. And for that, I'm going to bring in Public Information Officer Brad Byen. And Brad, a lot is going on in this map behind us. But first, just tell me, how are we looking going into tonight?
Well, we still have about 143,000 acres and 10% containment. You can see that we do have some containment line down here, but you can see the red area. We don't have contain and control around the perimeter of the fire in the red here. So we still have a big firefight and a lot of active fire out there that we're trying to mitigate.
Now, I first want to point out, for people that don't quite understand exactly where everything is on this map, let's point out this small area over here, Carpinteria. That's been the focus the last couple of nights. Some people were a little bit nervous that that fire was going to creep in either from this side or from down here. What is that case going into tonight?
Well, luckily for us, this isn't a wind-driven fire as much anymore since the Santa Anas have broken down. It's still a potential, but there is a contingency area that we do have in Carpinteria area mitigating this and getting ahead of the fire in case that were to be an issue and progress farther west into this area.
Now, we always use these type of fire terms, contingency. Can you explain to me exactly what are fire crews doing out there and building those type of lines?
So basically we have personnel and engines and crews in this area building fire lines, building dozer lines, so in case as a contingency that it were to reach that area, we are ahead of the fire and can mitigate the situation prior to it coming to that area.
Well, Brad, thank you so much. So we're really trying to get ahead of the fire tonight. I wanted to point out where we were earlier tonight. It was Highway 33 where the flames are in Los Padres National Forest. And now we are going to show you some footage from inside that canyon. It was a very steep terrain. We faced a lot of obstacles just trying to get to fire officials. Once we arrived to some of the fire crews, they told us they had difficulty getting to some of those lines. Earlier, they had to deal with some landslides when we started going up those roads. Some of the roads were blocked with big boulders from the landslides, and those landslides were caused from this fire. So Caltrans is out there working on those lines, making sure they have a clear path for those fire officials. And like I was saying, a very active scene out there. You're seeing a lot of those flames. It was quite the inferno. We got to speak to some of the strike crews out there to see exactly what their model and strategy is tonight, and here's what they said.
So tonight we're actually using fire to fight the fire. We're burning out some of these areas, and with the intention of that taking away the fuel for the real fire to make forward progress as it wants.
We have 3,800 firefighters out there working on the Thomas Fire. That is up from yesterday, just around the campgrounds I'm seeing. We have a lot more fire trucks in, but they're coming from all over the place, from Oregon and Nevada, and we are expecting more tomorrow. Now, it's very hard to determine exactly what's going to happen with this fire, and there's no end date in mind, especially with the Santa Ana winds, but fire officials tell me this has potential of lasting a few weeks. Dan?
All right, Angel, thank you for that update. And we're going to check in here with Dave shortly and find out more about what's going on with those Santa Ana winds. Well, CAL FIRE says a backfiring operation near Lake Casitas went well today, and more of those were conducted in the Ojai area. Angel just mentioned some of that. We were there as the crews were putting fire on the ground there ahead of the main body of the fire. By removing the vegetation with smaller fires, crews hope to slow the progress of the main body of the fire. And so, Dave, what is the situation with the winds tonight, and what do we think?
Letting up, and I think there's reason to be optimistic about changing from triage into actual strategic firefighting and contingency plans, as Angel was talking about. I thought that was a really comprehensive report about what they're facing out there. And yeah, up along that 33 corridor, it is bad news up there, and they are still fighting what, as you said right at the beginning of the newscast, this is the biggest fire of the year in California. It's 16th in state history going back to 1932. It's a big fire. So even though the winds are letting up, when you've got a fire that big, until you really get in all those hot spots and really put it down, yeah, it still has potential here and there. Winds will be locally a factor out on the eastern flank of the fire, where the most control is. But as you get into Santa Barbara County, a dramatically different wind field. Overnight flow will be northeast at about 6 to 12 miles per hour. And as you saw in some of that video tonight, it really wasn't all that windy. But again, it still is dry, even if the winds have let up a bit. And as you indicated, the fuels are also a big factor. The Los Padres National Forest is a big fuel. Looking at these wind gusts, they will pick up again later tomorrow into Sunday. So in Ventura County, Dan, we're still dealing with red flag warnings. On top of that, smoke is going to be a factor as the winds still continue to shift. However, over the weekend, a little more optimistic about a bit of northwest flow along the central coast. So places like Santa Maria, Lompoc, Santa Ynez Valley may see some improvement on smoke, but the south coast is still going to be choking on it until they get that fire put